Happy Friday, everybody. Jim Williams here along with Chris King, take two. And Chris, a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of fights yesterday in sports. Seemed like something in the water there. There's
must have been
minor league baseball and all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that time of year, right? The weather gets warmer, so do the temperature or the tempers.
Yeah, that's all right.
So fisticuffs aplenty.
Fisticuffs aplenty. How about the 21-0 roll that Memphis put on Minnesota last night, and Milwaukee. I'm sorry, not Minnesota.
No, you're right. Minnesota.
It was Minnesota. Okay, they put it on Minnesota last night, and they didn't call a timeout.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota played about as well as you could in the first quarter. I mean, they're up by 18 points. They got cut to 7 at the half, but then they pulled way up ahead again. They were up, 25, 26 points late in the third quarter. And then I guess they forgot that basketball, like we talked about so many times, it's a 48-minute game. And if you don't actually play it, somebody's going to come back and burn you. And we saw it in the fourth quarter where we saw, the final score was 37-12 was the fourth quarter run by Memphis overall, that 21-0 run. And Minnesota, they don't have anyone to blame but themselves. I mean, you look at the way they played offense. They obviously needed to get more production from Karl Anthony Towns. He only took 4 shots in the game in 33 minutes. I mean, put it in perspective, he had more fouls than shot attempts.
That's rare.
Yeah. And when you have Karl Anthony Towns, a guy that's, been an all-star multiple times, and he puts up 8 points, I mean, he had more blocks than shot attempts. I mean, that's not something you're going to normally see. But, I mean, there were a lot of fouls in that game. I mean, you look, Vanderbilt had 5, Towns had 5, Naz Reid had 5 in 10 minutes, so kudos to him, getting his money's worth. Pat Beverly had 4. You look over on the other side, Jaren Jackson had 5 for Memphis in 21 minutes. He was a non-factor, too. He was only 2 of 6. And, Morant struggled shooting the ball. He was just 5 of 18 from the floor. But when it came down to it in crunch time, Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, and those guys stepped up, and Minnesota didn't have an answer. And you have to wonder, I mean, I saw Morant's comments after the game saying that there's a lot of people drinking after that loss in Minnesota. But how does Minnesota come back and respond from this now? I mean, you had a team that won 56 games in the regular season. You were blowing them out in your own building. You were poised to take a 2-1 series lead, and you turn around and blow it. And now the question is, can Minnesota get off the mat, or is Minnesota going to lay there?
I would think they're going to lay there. And I'll tell you what. We said yesterday, one of our wonderful commenters asked us about, taking Minnesota in the first quarter. And we said, that's probably not bad because it's, they get amped up and they're going to play and they may jump out to a quick lead, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And that's what happened.
Yeah, you really can't finish much worse than what the Timberwolves did. I mean,
21 unanswered points is just boggles the mind.
And you look at the end of the third quarter, it was 83-62 with 1:05 to play in the third.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time Minnesota scored again, it was 83-83. So,
well, you could almost leave the court for 2 minutes and they couldn't put 21 points on the board.
Yeah, I mean, you just look Minnesota, they blew the game, let's be honest. It was 88-88 with 5:42 to go. Then they gave up 5 straight as part of what turned into a long run that was a 14-4 run that put Memphis up 10 with 1:17 to go, and you could turn the lights out at that point.
Right.
But Minnesota, they played well for a half. Unfortunately, basketball is
Two
Not
halves.
one half, it's two.
But you brought up a good point. It was even when that 21-point run was over, it still was a close game for a while there. And so you could have said, all right, we blew that, but we still have a chance to win the game. Let's just close this thing out. But you got to think Memphis is feeling really good because they figure, all right, we got down, but man, we came back and we stole this game.
Well, I mean, how could you not feel good after coming back from down as many as 26? I mean, it's basically the basketball equivalent of, one of my favorite NFL games ever, which was the Miracle at Rich back in 1993 when the Oilers were up 35-3 and then went on to lose. And I remember listening to the radio broadcast afterwards, and you got the Houston commentators going, well, the lights have been on at Rich Stadium. They've been on since this morning, but you can pretty much turn them out on the Bills right now. And, of course, then that
came back to bite them.
Yeah.
The trivia question on that is Frank Wright, who led at that point was the largest playoff deficit in a game, led the Buffalo Bills to a win. And Frank Wright also was the guy who led Maryland to a big victory, come from behind victory as a backup to Boomer Esiason against the University of Miami Hurricanes, who was rated number 1 at the time.
Yeah, they were down 31-0 in that game and came back to win 42-40.
Right.
And if I recall, he replaced another Buffalo Bills backup quarterback in that game because it was Stan Gelbaugh who started in that contest.
That's a name out in the past.
Yeah, well, it's in the past for a good reason because Gelbaugh wasn't any good.
Right.
But,
there's that.
I digress. And like Michael said, it's Happy Friday, Happy Earth Day, and Kyrie Irving, of course, celebrating Flat Earth Day. Maybe he can figure out how the Nets can win a game on or at home because they couldn't do it on the road in the first 2 games against Boston. And if they're not careful, they could be down 3-0, just like Denver is.
It's true. It's very true. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about our buddies at DraftKings, because DraftKings has a really cool promotion for those of us who enjoy watching the Max Wagers Network or reading the content on winners and wonders or picks and parlays or all of it, which you all should be doing. Here's the deal, because we're getting to baseball here in a second, and that is bet $5 to win $200 in free bets. Make your first deposit bet of only $5 or more, and bet on any Major League Baseball money line to win $200 in free bets. Okay, so that's not too bad. You got to bet the money line, and when we get out on the graphics, Chris will explain that to you. And the only other thing you have to do to get this is use our promo code. Okay,
give me $5,000.
That's right, and send it to Chris.
That's not part of the thing. Oh.
Yeah, it's small.
Apparently, Jim messed up the terms.
I didn't get the graphic right. Sorry, I'll put your PayPal account on there. Okay, use the promo code WAW Video. That's Winners and Wonders Video to get all the information, which of course is in the show box below. Now, remember that in some states, you have to be 21 years of age to participate, and always, please bet responsibly. So we're going to go and we're going to check out what's going on in Major League Baseball. And we're going to start our trip around Major League Baseball. As the thing spins, it's the Mets and the D-backs.
Right, and we're talking about 2 teams at opposite ends of the standings, really. The Mets 10-4 this season. They're 5-2 on the road. Diamondbacks are 5-8 on the year. Let's face it, nobody's impressed with Arizona. They haven't really done anything. They're 2-4 at Chase Field. A couple of guys with 0 ERAs on the mound today, as David Peterson 1-0 with a 0 ERA and a 1.20 WHIP, 4 walks and 7 strikeouts and 8 1/3 is on the mound for the Mets. He's taking over, of course, for the injured Taijuan Walker, who's just part of the walking wounded in that New York rotation. We've talked about the fact that, you don't have DeGrom and you don't have Walker, and they're trying to get by with Scherzer and Tyler McGill. and guys like that. Zach Gallen, 0-0 with a 0 ERA, a .75 whip, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts over 4 frames pitching for the Diamondbacks. He's only made 1 start this year. I think he's spent some time on the shelf as well. And this comes down to offense, really. The Mets 6th in runs per game at 4.79. They're 9th in runs on the road at 486. Meanwhile, Arizona's just tied for 27th in runs per game at 2.85. They're averaging 2.50 at home, which is tied for the worst in the majors with the aforementioned Nationals, who, of course, did not pull out the win yesterday against these Diamondbacks. The Mets are 4-0 in their last 4 against a right-handed starter. They're 5-1 in their last 6 series openers. They're 13-3 in their last 16 as a favorite. Meanwhile, the Diamondbacks are 11-40 in their last 51 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. They are 0-4 in their last 4 at home after a road trip of at least 7 days. And the Mets have had a lot of success against Arizona lately. They've won 11 of the last 13 meetings. I'm going to go with the Mets and Peterson over Gallen and company in this one.
I have a question. Good to see Euler and Michael and Super Sly. Good to see the family is in town. Both these teams played on the East Coast and flew overnight to get to Arizona. I don't know if anybody like the Elias Sports Bureau or somebody like that has statistics on how many runs are scored by 2 teams when they, cross the country and play the next day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's done that research,
Yeah.
whether it's Elias or ESPN Sports and Information or somebody.
Right. But, to me, I agree. The Mets should win this game. But do you really think that this is definitely one of those games where you might want to stay away from playing the over on this game?
Yeah, let me just see what the total is for that one. They've got it set at 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, the Mets have seen the under go 7-5-2 in their games. Arizona's seen the under go 10-3. So I probably wouldn't expect a ton of offense in that contest from either side. So yeah, if you're going to play the total, I'd probably lean towards the under. I mean, you look at the Mets' recent games, 8-7-4. They had that 9-run game against the Giants that went extra innings. But in the 3 games with Arizona last weekend, 13 runs in the opener, but then 5 runs in each of the last 2 games of that series, including the one where Peterson started.
Well, I don't know. They, both could come out and be 11-10 tonight, but I have a feeling that there are going to be a lot of guys that by about, I don't know, the 5th or 6th inning are just going to be out there sleepwalking. So,
well, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise if that was the case, because we talked about the Rangers and the Islanders yesterday. I felt bad because we talked about how that game would probably stay under because 9 of the last 10 meetings had, and then the Rangers were up 3-0 after 1 period of play and went on to win 6-3. Right. So, I mean, every time, just like Roddy Piper says, just when you think you have all the answers, I change the questions.
And that's a good point. Yeah.
And that's basically the way things went as far as that yesterday. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw some wackadoo 11-10 game.
Right. And, at the end of the day, the sage wisdom of Roddy Piper always wins out. So there's that.
Well, exactly. I mean, how are you going to argue with him?
No. Can't argue with him or Yoda. Okay. So, all right. So the Mets and the D-backs. From there, we're going to the Redbirds and the Reds. We got 2 teams that are seeing red, but one is better than the other.
Right, and you look here and
don't think you have to guess too hard on this one.
Yeah, the Cardinals 7-4. They're 4-3. Of course, we faded them yesterday against the Marlins, and if you were along for the ride with us, you would have walked away as a winner because the Marlins won that one rather easily, 5-0 behind Pablo Lopez. The Cardinals 7-4 overall, 4-3 on the road. They're facing a Reds team. That's not a typo, folks. The Reds are 2-11. Overall, they are 0-2 at the Great American Ballpark. Steven Matz, 1-1. His ERA is ugly because he got shelled in his first outing. But he's coming off a win in his last start. 1.50 whip, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts, and 8 2/3. Against Hunter Green, 1-1 with a 4.35 ERA, a 1.065 WHIP, 2 walks, and 13 Ks.
Sounds like a subdivision.
Yeah.
I live in Hunter Green.
And now, don't get me wrong, Hunter Green can rev up the radar gun. He threw, I think, 37 or 38 pitches over 100 miles an hour in his last start.
Yeah, he did.
You know, if you don't throw anything else, sooner or later people are going to realize, hey, we can catch up to this. It doesn't matter how fast it is. And the Reds
How many of them did he throw across the plate?
Well, I mean, he's only got 2 walks, so.
Okay, well then, all right. Then he's got velocity plus,
he's
control.
Got some control. But the problem is, though, if it's the only pitch you throw, sooner or later people are going to catch up to it.
They can catch up to it. Certainly, the bats of the Cardinals can catch up to it. They got some guys that can hit.
Yeah, the Cards 9th in runs per game at 4.55. They're middle of the pack offensively on the road at 3.57. But the Reds are tied for 27th in the majors in runs per game at 2.85. They're tied with Arizona. They average 4 runs per game in their 2 games at home. Unfortunately, they gave up, I think it was something like 17 runs in those 2 games to the Guardians. The Cardinals 9-2 in their last 11 series openers. They're 8-2 in their last 10 against Stars with a WHIP less than 1.15. They're 11-3 in their last 14 on the road against a righty. And the Reds, those numbers are pretty dismal, let's be honest. 3-15 in their last 18 overall, 1-5 in their last 6 series openers, 0-4 in their last 4 against the left-handed starter. I know Matt's, like I said, his numbers aren't pretty right now, but if you look at the Reds' offense, neither is anything they do. So let's play the smart way, and we will roll with the Cardinals as much as I hate to do it. But, if you're looking for a team that's going to deliver a win, sometimes you have to swallow your pride and deal with the fact that, you get the benefit of having your team play a bad team, or a team you don't like play a bad team, I should say. And that's the case here.
Okay, real quick, Max Wagers, winners and whiners, picks and parlays has a free gift for you. Can't beat free, as the old saying goes. If it's free, it's for me. And that is a Major League Baseball betting guide that has over 100 pages of content. That's right, folks. It's outstanding. Gives you all kinds of information that you will need to get better at betting on baseball. It has in-depth analysis, some of which was written by my partner in crime, Mr. Chris King. And it's a great book. It really is. It's got plenty of cool stuff in it. You should check it out. And where else are you going to go to get it for free? You're going to go to the show box. That's right. Go down below to the show box and hit that part that says show more. It'll scroll down. You can get to the information we gave you on DraftKings for baseball on the betting. You can get to Chris's picks, and you can also get to, of course, sign up for and receive for free this baseball book. Okay, so by all means, all things baseball, DraftKings for betting, and to teach you how to bet, get that free guide. Okay, so both of them in the show box below. All right, Christopher, we are headed out to the ice, and today marks, I believe, 1 week left in the regular season of the NHL, and there's still some loose ends to be tied up.
Yeah, and there's only 4 games on the schedule tonight, which means that that means Saturday is going to be chock full of games to keep an eye on. But not a ton of options tonight, but we've got you covered anyway.
Right, that's what we're here for. So going to the ice, we've got Team
A and Team B.
Right. Yeah. Cardinals and the Reds still playing on. Hang on a second. Okay. And so next up, Oops. We jumped past. Oh, we're back. Okay. The Caps and the Coyotes. And, the Caps have been playing well. They play better on the road than they play at home.
Yeah, I mean, they're 24-8-6 on the road compared to 19-15-5 on home ice. The Coyotes are bad. They're 22-49-6. We talked about them losing the other night to Chicago in overtime. They're just 10-26-2 at home. Ilya Samsonov, 23-10-5 with a 299 goals against, an 897 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. Apparently, it didn't copy when I changed it. It's actually Karel Vejmelka, not Capo Kakinen, in net for the Coyotes. He's 12-31-3 with a 367 goal against, an 899 save percentage, and 1 shutout for Arizona. Washington 8th in the league in goals for at 3.39. They're 14th in goals against at 2.95. The Coyotes dead last in the league in goals for at 2.44. They're third worst in goals against at 3.79. Washington is 4-1 in their last 5 as a favorite, 7-2 in their last 9 on the road, 6-2 in their last 8 overall. Arizona is 21-54 in their last 75 games as an underdog, and they are 10-43 with teams against teams with a winning record.
Hey, Jason, I think you're on to something there, buddy.
I stayed away from that Florida game. I said, Florida
nothing good could come from it.
6-something, and I wasn't going to put it up. Lenny was right. I thought it was going to end up being I thought that Detroit would lose maybe 5-3, but it ended up 5-2 instead. But yeah, I'm glad I stayed away from that.
Okay. I agree with you, Michael. Edmonton, Colorado will be a very entertaining game.
The bad part about Colorado is you don't know who's going to play because they've been resting guys and everything. Right. That's why they lost to Seattle the other night, where they were badly outplayed.
But we do know Edmonton will play
badly outplayed by the Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to hope that they'll play better. But I mean, Edmonton's played well of late. I mean, let's not take anything away from what we've seen from the Oilers.
Absolutely,
stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm. All right, from the game out in the desert to.
We're going to go to the Twin Cities.
Dun, dun, dun. We talked about Minnesota a few minutes ago, but that was in basketball.
Right.
The Wild and the Kraken.
Yeah, and the Wild.
There's a Philip Grubauer sighting.
Yeah, the Wild played last night. They beat Vancouver 6-3. They're still tied with St. Louis for the second and third in the Central. We know those teams are going to play in the postseason. To me, the tiebreaker situation is idiotic when it comes to the NHL because St. Louis has won all 3 meetings. They have more regulation wins, and right now Minnesota's in second place.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the math because it doesn't make any sense. Grubauer, 18-29-5 with 309 goals against, an 891 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Starting against Marc-Andre Fleury. That's right, he's actually going to be between the pipes tonight. Fleury is 25-22-5 on the year. I'm just taking a look to see what he's done since he's gone to Minnesota, just to see how much better he's been since he was in Chicago. Since coming to Minnesota earlier this season, he's gone 6-1 in 7 starts with a 259 goals against and a 921 save percentage. So those are some pretty good numbers. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten more time instead of Cam Talbot. The Kraken, 29th in goals for at 259. They're 24th in goals against at 343. The Wild are 5th in goals for at 369. They hung 6 last night on Vancouver. 17th in goals against at 304. The Wild 4-0 in their last 4 after scoring 5 goals or more in their previous game. 6-0 in their last 6 against the Pacific Division. 6-1 in their last 7 overall. The Kraken 7-21 in their last 28 against teams with a winning record. 2-8 in their last 10 after allowing 2 or less in their last game. 1-6 in their last 7 when their opponent put up at least 5 in their previous contest. I know Minnesota might be a little tired, but guess what? They played at home yesterday. They're playing at home today. They play well on home ice. I know Seattle's all excited. They've won 2 or 3 in a row. But, they're still not going anywhere. Ron Francis has a lot of work to do with that team. And I think that when you get right down to it, the Wild are by far the better team on the ice here. Take the Wild at home to get the win.
The last time, by the way, I looked it up. The last time that Grubauer and Marc-Andre Fleury met each other when they were on winning teams with records above 500, was when Marc-Andre Fleury was with the Penguins and Grubauer was with the Capitals.
And how many years ago was that?
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. So, yeah, we're talking 4 or 5 years at least. So there's that. But I'll tell you what, we talked about this a lot at the trade deadline, that somebody was going to get Marc-Andre Fleury and it was going to pay off for them. And, they got him. And at 6-1, you can't argue with that. That's represented pretty darn good.
Yeah, they got him. I mean, I wish that Toronto had been more aggressive trying to get him, but it seemed like Chicago tapered off what they wanted in return because they wanted multiple first-round picks when the Leafs inquired, and then they dumped him for a second-rounder. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't understand that, but
I don't either. What about the Capitals? That's right. We're picking the Caps tonight against the Coyotes out in the desert. It's I think it's the last road game in that series of road games the Capitals play. Back to DC, for the next couple games.
Yeah, Washington after tonight will play. They'll host Toronto on Sunday. Then they host the Islanders on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So
there you go. All right, so the Caps will be ready to go. All right, Kevin, Riley, do not worry, buddy, because coming up next is anything and everything you need to know about the NBA playoffs. And here we go to the NBA. And everybody get your NBA questions ready. And we were talking about that amazing Memphis game last night. And hopefully get some interesting ones tonight as well. All right, so here we go, boys and girls. Let me hit the button. NBA. Heat and the Hawks. This one being played in Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm still going to go with the Heat. I don't have any faith in Atlanta. We've seen them struggle on the defensive end of the floor. Their turnover rate has been ridiculous in the first 2 games of the series. Trae Young has turned the ball over 16 times himself in 2 games. That's not going to get it done. Now, granted, Atlanta playing at home, they could start off strong like we saw yesterday with Minnesota, but the problem is they don't have Clint Capella. He's out. So you're relying on John Collins. You don't have Lou Williams. He's out too. I know that, Miami's got some guys that are questionable. Adebayo, Martin, Morris, P.J. Tucker, all questionable. The only one that probably won't play is Morris. He hasn't played in the series. Everybody else played in games 1 and 2. And it comes down to the fact that, they couldn't stop Jimmy Butler in game 2 if their life depended on it. They couldn't stop anybody in game 1. I don't have a ton of faith in Atlanta. We look here. The Heat are tied for third in postseason scoring offense at 115 points a game. They're shooting better than 50% from the floor. They're shooting 43.2% from 3. Atlanta, 98 points a game in the first 2 games of this series. That's not going to get it done. They're only shooting 43.2% from the field. They're shooting 28.9% from beyond the arc. That's not going to get it done by any stretch of the imagination. Atlanta has to hope that they can start knocking down some threes. But like Frank just said, the Heat have a very deep rotation. We've talked about Spoelstra and what he's done with that group all year long with Butler and, Adebayo and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and, even lesser-known guys, like we said, Max Struss and Gabe Vincent and all these guys that step up when their number gets called. You got guys that can't step up that are named players in crunch time situations. And Miami's getting it done with a bunch of guys that, you've never heard of. Or
good role players.
Yeah, or guys that, who would think Udonis Haslem was still playing in the league,
Right. So they're getting some quality minutes out of him. Now, Kevin followed the lead on the Memphis deal last night, but he wants to know about Atlanta's first quarter. And we said yesterday, Kevin, that when we were asked about in that Memphis game, whether or not Minnesota could get off to a hot start, and we said, yeah, they could, but it's how they finish. So it's quite possible that Atlanta gets off to a good start here at home, playing their first home game in the playoffs. but not at the end.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. Atlanta's favored by 1.5 after the opening quarter. It varies anywhere depending on the book. I see DraftKings has it at -1. I see FanDuel has the Heat favored by a point or by half a point. I personally, I stay away from quarters and things like that because all you need is the last thing you want to see is if your team's up by 2 or whatever at the end of the quarter and then they give up a buzzer beater 3 or something like that. It changes the complexion completely of that bet. Like we said yesterday, Atlanta could start strong. They could get the benefit of some calls that gets them some free throws and stuff like that.
Well, I tell you what, Michael, we'll get to your football question when we finish the NBA. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you could probably take the first quarter. Like I said, it's not something I usually do. I don't normally chase quarters or halves because I'd rather find out who wins the game at the end of the day than rather worrying about who carries what particular quarter. Because, like we said, you could be up by 2, give up a 3 at the buzzer, and then all of a sudden your advantage is gone, and you're out money.
Then you're in trouble.
Yep.
Now, Phoenix. The issue with Phoenix is a health one, right?
Right. I mean, Devin Booker's going to miss a couple weeks with that hamstring injury. It's a grade 1 hamstring strain. He won't play. He's the only name really to talk about on either side because everybody else has been guys that have been out for an eternity. But I mean, let's not overlook this now. The Suns won 64 games in the regular season, despite having the second most lost man games to injury. I mean, you look at who missed time for Phoenix this season. Let's just take a quick look here. We know Chris Paul missed time when he had that broken thumb. Out of the 82 games in the regular season, we'll take a look and see who played what. Let's see. All right. Booker only played 68 games. DeAndre Ayton played 58. Paul played 65. Cam Johnson played 66. Crowder played 67. Cam Payne played 58. Later, Shamet played 69. So, I mean, you're talking about none of these guys even hit the 70-game mark, and the Suns still won 64 games. Now, what does that mean for the perspective of this game? Well, let's start with this. I know New Orleans has shot the ball well from three-point range. Okay, they've shot 49.1% from beyond the arc in the first 2 games. That's all well and good. They hit 17 of 30 in game 2. Also all well and good. They're not going to shoot 17 of 30 with regularity. Okay, in the regular season, the Pelicans were 28th in threes made per game at 10.6. They were 27th in three-point shooting at 33.2%. If you want to think that New Orleans is going to shoot 49% from 3 in over the course of a series or the entire postseason, I got a bridge that I want to sell you in Brooklyn because it's not going to happen. Granted, I know getting C.J. McCollum was a big add for them, but they're not going to jump 15, 16 percentage points. You look, I know both teams are averaging 112 points per game in the first 2 games of this series, but if you look, the Suns are shooting almost 52% from the floor. New Orleans is shooting 45.8. So New Orleans is shooting worse has a terrible 2-point percentage comparatively, because if you look in this series, like we said, they're shooting 45.8 overall. They're shooting 49.1 from 3. So if we break this down, from 2-point range, New Orleans is shooting 44.4%. That's it. That's dead last in the playoffs. Meanwhile, from inside the arc, the Suns are shooting 61.4%. That's second best in the playoffs, behind only the Warriors. Now, sure, you can go down to the Big Easy. You can get your beignets and your gumbo and your crawfish etouffee and all that. But it's not necessarily going to phase a Phoenix team that has been here already. They've already They went to the finals last year. All this means is that the lineup's going to change a little bit. Booker's out. That means they're going to play at a slower pace. The Suns play about 2 possessions per game slower when Booker's out than when he's in the game. Their defense improves by 4.5 points per game when he's not on the floor. Now, the Suns were the 3rd best defense as it was. New Orleans is going to struggle here. They'll keep it close, but in the end, Phoenix has the experience, Phoenix has the depth, and Phoenix knows how to play without guys. That's something you can't teach. You have to learn by trial by fire. The Suns 10-3 in their last 13 of their opponents scores at least 100. The Pelicans 1-4 in their last 5 as an underdog, 1-4 in their last 5 at home against teams with a winning road record. And the Suns have gone 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings in New Orleans. I get that Booker's not there, but it just means that they'll go to a bigger lineup because Cam Johnson will get more minutes. They'll slow things down. They'll play more physical. They'll rely on defense. The Suns get the win here. Until I see them go down and face elimination, I'm not thinking that New Orleans is going to win this series. They'll keep it interesting, but they're not going to win it.
And that's about all they can do. I mean, they're not necessarily the Suns are the Suns. I mean, like you said, they were able to win even when they weren't at full strength. And that's the testament of a good good basketball team, is being able to win when you don't have all your horses, which, goes back to what you're talking about, what we talked about Eric Spoelstra all year, was, the team could win regardless of whether Butler could play or not play. So that was definitely the way it works. So it worked out pretty well in that regard. So, yeah, will the Pelicans, pick off a game or so? Maybe, but the end, it's going to be the Valley of the Sun that does it. Now, here's Michael's question, Chris, and it has to do with the Buffalo Bills. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the Bills they're either going to look wide receiver or they're going to look corner early. There's talk that they might trade out of round 1 and trade down and pick up a couple second-round picks potentially. If they don't make a move to pick up a veteran corner in the next week or so. I know that there's been talk that Von Miller was trying to recruit Joe Hayden because Hayden's a free agent, I believe, at this point.
Mm-hmm. He's not a cheap free agent.
Yeah, well, I mean, who is?
Right.
But if they don't, I could see them going after somebody like Trent McDuffie or Andrew Booth Jr. There's a couple other corners out there. The one guy I don't want to see them chase. I don't want to see them chasing Derek Stingley. He was injury prone. He didn't show a whole lot. I mean, he's played a handful of games in the last 2 years. If they don't go that route, I can see them. If somebody like Jamison Williams falls to them, you can never have enough receiving threats. I can see them going that route. Or, you never know. They could try to sneak a linebacker or somebody in there.
Yeah. As far as the Buccaneers can go, they don't have a first-round pick. They made that trade to the Jets. So they won't be picking to the second round. And my guess is, frankly, that it's quite likely that they're going to go on the defensive side of the ball, maybe an edge rusher, maybe a defensive tackle, because they're a little old in the interior line there. And JPP on the outside is also getting up there. So it's probably going to be defense. It's probably going to be either, as I say, an edge rusher or somebody in the interior. And with Todd Bowles now as the head coach and he being the former D coordinator, I think they'll probably look that route. So that's what.
Well, I mean, Tampa Bay does have a first-round pick, Jim. They pick at 27.
Hang on a second.
According to Pro Football Talk, they pick in rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then they don't have a pick until round 7.
Well, as of yesterday, the Buccaneers sent their 27th pick overall to the Jets for the Jets' second round, which is number 35. Their
Oh, that happened.
Second in 2023 in their third round in 3 rounds in 2023. Second round pick, a third round pick, and a fourth round pick. So they traded their pick.
I didn't see anything about that out.
See, but that's what I saw there. Ninja wants to know about the Phillies and the Brewers, and then Kevin's got a question about a parlay there. But now, I'm going to the research department to find out if the Buccaneers still have a pick. So,
I wonder if that was a mock trade or something.
I don't know. I mean, it was. They said, but let me do a little research there while you answer the question about the Phillies and also about the parlays.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me about the Phillies is how badly they've played. I mean, they haven't looked good. I mean, they started 2-0, and since then they've gone 3-8 or something like that. Yeah, 3-8. They had to rally to beat Colorado in the finale of that series. They lost 3-4 to the Marlins. They lost 2-3 to the Mets. I know they're throwing Ranger Suarez today against Freddie Peralta. I mean, they spent a lot of money to get some bats into that lineup, and Castellanos and Schwarber haven't necessarily disappointed. They've combined for 7 homers. Schwarber's only hitting $170 and has fanned 15 times and 47 at bats. I mean, let's be honest. The Phillies have to get better pitching than what we've seen so far. I mean, Aaron Nola has struggled. His ERA is over 5. Eflin's ERA is over 5. Suarez's ERA is 5.87. Wheeler's been smacked around like a batting practice pitcher. His ERA is 9.39. We've seen Milwaukee. They struggled offensively early on. They've been a little better of late. They swept the Pirates, and I know everybody's saying, "Well, so what? It's the Pirates." But that's the fun part about baseball is you have to beat the teams that are in front of you on the schedule, and that just happened to be the way things went. I know that Peralta has struggled. I think that all of a sudden, like I said, the Brewers scored 15 runs in that 3-game sweep. I'm going to lean towards Milwaukee just because of the fact that their pitching hasn't been as bad as what we've seen from Philadelphia so far. I'm hoping Philadelphia puts it together because I think they're a better team than what they've shown. I just don't know if they're going to put it together right now. And that's the big issue that I face.
All right, Chris, here's the two teams.
The ones from yesterday.
Yeah.
We had both our two-teamers on the show yesterday in case you weren't with us, where we had – let me see who we put down because – I always keep all the slides because I need to. Yesterday we talked about in the 2 for the money picks, we had Golden State and the Kings over the Blackhawks, and then we had the Blues and the Canes prevailing. All 4 of those teams were victorious last night as well. So it was a good night for us on that perspective, and it was a good night on the ice overall because I think pretty much everybody we talked about yesterday on the ice was victorious that I can think of. Mm-hmm. Just take a look here at the Blues and the Kings. Like we said, we talked about we picked the Hurricanes. They won. We had the Rangers over the Islanders and the Flames over the Stars. And then down in the shot in the dark, we had the Flyers over the Canadiens at plus money, the Sabres over the Devils at plus money, and the Penguins over the Bruins. So it was a good night for us on the ice all around. Casey DeSmith actually earned his money yesterday in net for the Penguins because he had struggled most of the year, but I think he stopped 52 shots last night against Boston in a shutout win for Philadelphia. For Pittsburgh. 52 shots, a new franchise record for a shutout win.
Yeah, I've got. You're right. I did check it, and the Buccaneers do have a first round pick, and it is the 27th pick, and it will still be a defensive player. Probably an end rusher, probably a D tackle. So
could you see somebody for an offensive lineman if somebody like Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa were to fall there?
Well, yeah, I mean, if somebody's that good falls to them, Jason Light is one of those take the best athlete on the board kind of guy. But I know that if you draft for need, that's where they're going to go as defense. If you draft for who's the best player available and they fall to 27, then yeah, I would not be surprised at all if they look at offensive line.
I mean, because you lost Marpet and Kappa.
Right.
So, I mean, I know they traded for Shaq Mason, but I mean, do they really think Shaq Mason's going to help?
Not every game. He's a spot starter. I mean, he's a guy you bring in, plays for a couple of plays, and move him out.
So. And Ryan said he took his son to the Nats game yesterday.
Well, that's nice. I wish they had gotten a hit for you, though, Brian, at the ninth inning, that the bases loaded and Juan Soto up, and he pops up. So that's not good. But tell you what, it is good, though.
Like Lex said,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I said, like Lex said, there, no bueno.
That's true. He's absolutely right. But who knows? I'll tell you what, we got bueno here. Caesar Sportsbook is giving us $1,100 in first bet insurance. All you have to do is place a first-time wager of up to $1,100 and get it back in the form of a free bet if you lose. All right, so ponder that for a minute. Basically, you can bet up to $1,100 in your first bet. You get bet insurance. So, if that bet doesn't pan out, they got you covered at Caesars. But you have to use our promo code, which goes screaming by there. It'll come back again here in a second. There you go. Rolls right off the tongue. ATS winners. And then VCR. Okay. Check it out in the show box below. Remember, in some states, most states actually, you have to be 21 years or older to participate, and always bet responsibly. All right, cool. All right, so we will go to 2 for the cash.
Yeah, and we talked about these ones, though. We talked about Minnesota over the Kraken. We talked about those in the Reds. I'm going to just keep fading the Reds until the Reds show some sign of life, which could be sometime around July. By which point they'll have gotten rid of everybody besides Joey Votto. The Caps over the Coyotes, I took Arizona the other day. They didn't pan out. It just goes to show you that, never trust the Coyotes. And the Heat over the Hawks. Atlanta's at home. As we saw yesterday, Denver started off fairly strong. Minnesota started off strong. They both lost.
Sure.
Have too much depth. The Heat have experience. The Heat have talent. The Heat get production out of guys that nobody, count on in a fantasy league or anything like that. And I think that Miami gets the win.
By the way, Lex, if you're asking if the Nationals play tonight, they're going to play the San Francisco Giants. And 80 degrees a day. Yeah, it is. The weather has been a little wacky here in the DMV. Quick question from our buddy Ninja. What do you think of the Blue Jackets tonight?
They're playing Ottawa.
Okay.
Neither team is going anywhere at this point. They're playing out the string. It's supposed to be Anton Forsberg against Elvis Berglikens. But I think they flipped to Philippe Gustafsson for the Sens. It's basically going off at a coin flip right now at minus 110 on both sides of the line.
You're right, Ryan. Soto had a chance with the bases loaded and couldn't come through. So, frustrating night at the old ballpark. 4 for the show coming up right now, and that gives us the Rays. This is going to be an interesting series.
Yeah, Corey Kluber going against Michael Wacha in that one. I just think Tampa Bay, they seem to have found themselves a little bit on their way out of the Windy City. Played yesterday, lost to Toronto 3-2. then had to fly down the coast. I'm going to give the edge to the Rays. Talked about the Suns and the Mets. And then with the Oilers, I'm going to go with the Oilers over the Avs. I just think the way Edmonton has played of late, and with Colorado having nothing to play for at this point of the season, other than trying to keep their guys healthy to make sure that they'll be ready when the playoffs start, I think I'm going to give the edge to the Oilers on home ice. They've played about 8-1 in their last 10. The one loss was to the Avalanche in a shootout in a game where Edmonton badly outplayed Colorado, but were bailed out by Darcy Kemper. And this one, I just think that Edmonton will get the upper hand. As for where the Cubs are against Quintana, I try not to put them up here just because of the fact that I don't want to be accused of being a homer, so I stay away from those games as much as possible. Plus, with the way the weather is, I mean, they moved that game from being a 2:20 start to starting at 8:05. I'm not sure how pitching is going to pan out in that situation, given the fact that might end up going to bullpens a lot earlier than expected.
That's for sure. You know what? Ryan's question about the Nationals. Yeah, the Scherzer thing last year, they traded Max because at the end of the season he was going to be a free agent, and so they figured, all right, it was unlikely that they were going to re-sign Max, and so he gave him a list of teams. All three of the teams he was willing to go to were on the West Coast. The Dodgers were a fit. The deal that they wanted the number one pitching prospect in the Dodgers organization, and they wanted a top flight catcher. The only way that came off was if they threw Trey Turner in on the deal. They had made 2 attempts to extend Trey's contract without success. Trey was looking to hit free agency, and so he was going to be. I mean, they had control of Trey for 2 more years, but they figured, all right, if we can get these 2 guys, we'll go for it. And so at this point in time, the Rendon situation was Rendon's deal was he actually took he's a Scott Boras guy. He took $245 million to play for the Angels out there, not far from Scott's offices. Interesting, Ryan, is that Rendon has done very little since he was hurt most of the season last year with the Angels, and he hasn't played that great this time around. The guy that they really miss out of that bunch, besides, of course, you don't replace a Max, Trey Turner at shortstop is who they're missing, because Trey was never led the league in batting last year. He's going to always be steals. He's a good guy. They didn't spend any money over the off season because they're doing a reset, and as we found out, most likely the team at least will take on a minority owner. Perhaps somebody will take a buyout, and that looks like at the early indications are that would be Ted Leonsis, who owns the Capitals, the Wizards, and the Capital One Arena. So he and Mark Lerner, who's obviously part of the Lerner family, Lerner's a minority owner in his holdings, and Ted's holdings. So it would be a nice handoff. So we'll see. But this is going to be one of those years where you watch a lot of the young players play for the Nationals and see how that pans out. Not fun, but I think that they'll be back before it's too late. Not this year, but don't rule them out for next time. All right, time to go to the big board. Let's see what we got there in the dark.
Yeah, we got the Blue Jays over the Astros. I know everybody's excited because the Astros are throwing Justin Verlander tonight against Ross Stripling, and I get it. I mean, Verlander's been good in his first 2 starts. He's coming off 8 shutout innings in his last outing and a win over the Mariners. But here's the thing. Houston's not hitting.
Mhm.
They got blanked by Otani and the Angels in the last game of that series. They got one hit, struck out 12 times. They got beat 7-2 in the game before that. They got beat 7-2 by the Mariners 2 games before that. Altuve is on the injured list. Correa is not there. They're hitting a collective. You'll love this, Jim. The team average for the Astros, $1.99.
1 point under the Mendoza line.
Yeah. Kyle Tucker is, everybody was high on him last year. So far this year, he's hitting .095. He's 4 of 42. Bregman's at 244. Altuve was hitting $1.67 before he went on the shelf. Yuli Gurriel's $1.47. Diaz $1.54. Martin Maldonado 0.43.
Oy.
So
not a lot of love in batting between both of these teams.
Well, no, that's just the Astros.
Right, I know.
But Toronto's got hitters.
Yeah, they've got them. Toronto pulling it together. Looks like they've got they were the sexy pick, and it looks like early on they're living up to it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Blue Jays. They've got Bo Bichette, and you got Springer, and you got Gurriel Jr., and then you got Guerrero, and you got Chapman. They'll be even better when Teoscar Hernandez comes back off the IL. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Toronto. I just think that the fact that they're hitting and Houston's not negates the Verlander effect, for lack of better terminology. I'm gonna take the Braves over the Marlins. If Atlanta wants to get right, they need to do it right now. They haven't looked good the first couple weeks of the season. Hopefully they'll turn it around. Well, I shouldn't say hopefully. Hopefully for the zillions of people that jumped on the bandwagon in Atlanta last season, they'll turn it around. Personally, I couldn't care less. But I think they'll beat Miami tonight. I'm going to take the Mariners over the Royals.
Fans.
Yeah. I'll take the Mariners over the Royals. Chris Flexen over Brad Keller. Seattle, they should have won yesterday. If J.P. Crawford doesn't make a couple of stupid errors, they win that game convincingly over Texas instead of losing 8-6. Speaking of the Rangers, I'm going to take the A's, who are an underdog at home. I take them over Texas. The pitching matchup, nothing to write home about. Adam Oller starting for the A's. Glenn Otto getting the call for the Rangers, as John Gray is apparently going to miss at least one more start. He sprained his knee the other day against Seattle in his previous outing, so he's hurt again. On the hardwood, I look for the Heat and the Hawks to go over 221.5. We've seen the numbers be pretty high strung in that series already, and you have to think that Trae Young should have a better game offensively at home than he did on the road. Might get a few more calls to go his way, get him to the stripe. Milwaukee and the Bulls, I like to say under 222.5. I mean, let's face it, Middleton is hurt now. For Milwaukee, he's going to miss a couple weeks with I think it's an MCL sprain. So that takes a good secondary scoring option out. The Bucks are going to have to slow things down, play a little more defense. That'll keep this one down in the 210, 215 range probably. Same thing we said with the Suns and the Pelicans. Booker being out, the Suns are better defensively when he's not playing. And they play at a slower tempo because they go to a bigger lineup. Johnson's obviously bigger than Booker. They're going to slow it down, grind it out a little bit, and make New Orleans work on every possession. So I look for that to stay under 216.5. Staying with the under train, I'm going to say Seattle and Minnesota end up under 6.5. The two totals this season between those teams, 5 and 6 goals. Minnesota scored 6 yesterday, but they're playing a second game of back-to-back. Look for it to be a little lower scoring there. Washington and Arizona. Now, Washington is weird because they've gone over in 10 of their last 11 on the road, and Arizona's seen the over go 6-0-1 in their last 7. But 9 of the last 12 meetings between these teams stayed under the total. You do the math. And Ottawa and Columbus, I would stay under the mark too. I know both teams have bad goaltending. Columbus has been notorious for giving up big goal totals, but with these two teams having nothing to play for but pride, and pride's in short supply with these teams, look for it to stay short of the total. How do I feel about the Bulls?
How do you feel about those Bulls?
Well, the answer I can give you to that is not very good. I know they won game 2 because Portis only played 6 minutes and Middleton went out. But you have to look at the numbers there. You know, the Bulls basically survived and won that game because they shot so well from the mid-range. That's not really a style that you thrive with in this era of the NBA. I mean, let's be honest. Teams that are out, there's a lot of 3-point shooting that runs wild here, and you're talking about a Chicago team that got by because DeRozan had 41 and Vucevic had 24 and Levine had 20. And if you look at the shot profile from game 2, just 17% of the Bulls' attempts from the field in that game came at the rim. 27% came from 3-point range, and everything else was mid-range. Now, that's not going to work. You're not going to shoot 48% from beyond the arc. You're not going to shoot as well as they did from the mid-range. And they're probably not going to force as many turnovers as they did in the first 2 games. I just think that in the end, Antetokounmpo and Lopez and all those guys are too good to end up falling down 2-1 in this series. It'll be close, but I think in the end, I think Milwaukee will pull it out because if you look, like we said, DeRozan, Levine, and Vucevic combined for 85 points, and they still only won by 4. So it makes you wonder if they only put up 60 points, what's the final score going to be?
Well, it goes back to the fact that, once again, one team's deeper than the other. One team has more weapons than the other. And at this point in time, in the playoffs, you have to be able to play a rotation of anywhere between 7 and 10 players. You can't just throw 5 guys out there and pray that they get it done for you. And look, I'm a big fan of Billy Donovan. He's a good coach, good guy. I'd love to see him do well, but and he's, to be honest, I think with the Bulls, he's probably done better with the Bulls than the Bulls have any reason to expect.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so and as Harry Doyle would say, they don't call him the best color man in the business for nothing. So there you go. Let's see.
Broadcasting school really paying off.
Really paying off. Yeah, all that tuition, coming back on. Any more questions from the audience here, Christopher?
No, it looks like pretty quiet.
Got it done, huh? Okay. Well, look, gang. Come Monday, Scott Steen's going to be here, and I'm going to be doing my work with the network. You won't be able to get rid of me that easily because I would pop back from time to time to sit in here with my buddy. I just want to take a moment to thank Chris because he's been a fantastic partner. He's been very gracious as a co-host from the standpoint of giving me some space to chatter from time to time. And, he's a professional. He does great work. It's great working with him, and I'm going to continue to be around. It's just not on an everyday basis, but I've enjoyed my time here co-piloting the show with Mr. King, and he's a class act. So I greatly appreciate what he's done. And guys, we'll be seeing you all along the network, and we hope that you pay attention to everything that goes on here. Chris, thanks very much. As I said, buddy, you're class act, and greatly appreciate the time we've had together. I've had a blast. You've taught me a lot, and for that, I'm very grateful.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, honestly, like we said, it wasn't a choice that we made to make the switch around. But I understand that trying to put the network together takes a lot more time than this show does. And make sure you drop by and everything else. I mean,
well, that's for sure. And we'll make sure that Chris gets the best guests first. So there's that.
Yeah, we'll have Bill Bender from the Sporting News next week to talk about the NFL draft.
Right. And we have Rich Sermonelli from The Fan in New York, WFAN, and also SNY New York and the Maxwell Football Association. And also he was with Campus Insiders. So
if you've got draft questions next week, make sure you bring
get
them.
ready to say.
What did we say? Was it going to be Tuesday and Wednesday, or Wednesday and Thursday?
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe even maybe one more guy.
So there you go.
A Rock may show up, and not the one you're thinking about, but the one that we know.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson's busy. I already contacted him. He's busy with the XFL.
He's busy trying to figure out what to do with the XFL. So anyway, all right, boys and girls. Again, thanks to you guys, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Okay, and I definitely am not gonna be a stranger. I will be. I can tell you this: I would rather be spending an hour with Chris talking about stuff than spending an hour and a half on the phone with executives talking about backgrounds and things like that we have to have. So anyway, it's
not talking about backgrounds.
Yeah, who doesn't love backgrounds? So anyway, guys, have a safe and wonderful weekend. And on Monday, it'll be the Steamroller and Chris, and you'll have a lot of fun with those guys.
And like Jim always said, make sure that you guys, if you haven't done it yet, to go to the Max Wagers Network page on YouTube and like and subscribe there, because eventually they're going to move from all the other channels. I know we've got people that come from all the Facebook pages or from the Winners and Winers YouTube and the Picks and Parlays YouTube, and Midday Money with Sean Higgs, from his page, winning free picks. Make sure you all go to the Max Wagers Network page, like and subscribe there, and that way, when they do funnel it and don't tell us about when that's going to be, you'll know where to find it.
We will tell you. I'll physically come here and tell you. And speaking of the network, don't forget Sean Higgs at noon with Midday Money. We got Allie at 1 o'clock with Morning Wood. Chris at 2. Scott and Scott 3 to 4.
They're currently on the Ocho.
Yeah. Then we got coming on Monday, Sean Miller. He's expert in soccer. And then closing out the day with 6+ hours of good entertainment is Tim, Nick, and Lenny as they do their thing, and get you ready for the night's entertainment. So by all means, from noon to 6 o'clock, you got plenty of stuff to do, but you always have to come here first. And what do you guys do? You check that show box, because there's always going to be something there. All right, boys and girls.
If you're looking for stuff about NASCAR, don't forget that Steen, Rachel, and myself will be on in about an hour to talk about this week's race, the Geico 500, coming to you live from Talladega.
Oh, boy.
So expect a lot of crashes and a lot of very fast track times.
That's the fastest track in NASCAR.
It's also one of the places where you get the biggest crashes.
You do, because you're going that fast, and nose to tail. It's going to be nose to tail.
I'm going to petition to have them rechange it from Talladega Super Speedway to Talladega Super Recway.
Where's that? Well, there's Ricky Stenhouse. He'll help you.
That's true.
There's
Stenhouse.
Ricky Bobby. You got Talladega Nights, so you may end up there. So, and just for the record, if you've never been there, it's in the middle of bloody nowhere. So
that's pretty much all of Alabama.
Alabama is interestingly stretched out piece of state there, and Talladega is just like, it's like they just dropped it. It's a big speedway, and it's a lot of fun. If you're in the neighborhood, drop by and check it out. It's a lot of fun. All right, boys and girls, we got to get out of here. But thanks for joining us, and back on Monday. Okay. All right, here we go.